project. I'm very glad to have the opportunity to present the webinar today and hope that you find a lot of information that's useful to you about one of my favorite Microsoft tools, Visio, in conjunction with my most frequently used and another favorite Microsoft project. I find that Visio is often an unheralded hero in the enterprise, and after I've had the opportunity to present some of this information, I usually find that people are very glad to find that they've got a tool that they haven't used very often and are able to make immediate use of. Our agenda today, we're going to start talking about some of the new features in Visio, and I think it's important to recognize that Visio is constantly being improved along with the rest of the Microsoft Office stack. And some of those new features may be of use to you. Now, I've extracted a bunch of slides from a presentation I did recently that took a couple of hours and went through some of these in great detail. I am absolutely not going to go into detail on the new features, but I want you to know that they're there, and feel free to reach out to me after the fact if you'd like more information about some of those and how you might make use of them in your organization. Then we're going to talk about Visio timelines, and as a foundation to talking about Visio timelines with project. And as Pam indicated, if we do have time at the end, we'll address your questions and answer during the webinar, or we will certainly follow up. So, on to the new features. Visio Online, one of the most recently introduced features and real popular, allows anywhere access to Visio diagrams via a web browser so that you can easily share your diagrams with those in your organization who don't have the Visio client installed on their workstation. A lot of new third-party templates and diagrams that you can search through or search for using the new functionality in Visio. It's a lot easier to provide the product team with feedback on Visio, features you like, features you miss, features you don't like the way they work. And I know for a fact that the product teams at Microsoft value your feedback and they respond to feedback. It's great to get an email from somebody on the product development team that says, you provided input about this feature, we just want to let you know we're introducing it. Improved support of AutoCAD for those who find that useful, includes faster import of AutoCAD files and improved scaling. One-step data connectivity with Excel. So we're going to show the one-step data connectivity with Project a little bit later, but you can also do it with Excel. Information rights management. Visio will respect information rights management if you are using that functionality to restrict access to some of the information in your emails and your Visio diagrams and other types of attachments. Modernized shapes. If you look at the left and the right sides of each of these boxes, you'll see the differences from Visio 2013 to the latest version 2016. And you'll see that these diagrams are now capable of maybe playing a little bit more prominent part in presentations you make to the C-suite, where previously they might have been a little rough around the edges and appropriate to the historic, IT or architecture or other engineering environment. Now they're a little bit more visually attractive. A lot of new shapes and designs in the diagram templates that are included. You'll see at the upper right, we've got the timeline that we're actually going to be looking at. There are quite a few others in there, so I recommend that you take a look at what's there if you haven't been into the Visio new screen recently. Some new organization chart template capabilities, and it's a lot easier to add pictures if you're frequently doing that type of a diagram. This is a real popular one across Microsoft clients. A new SharePoint workflow template that has additional support for stages, steps, loops, and some custom actions. I've talked in the past about the capabilities of generating SharePoint workflows from Visio diagrams and using Visio to diagram the workflows that you've deployed in SharePoint, so you can go either direction. Business process modeling notation template that supports BPMN version 2.0. Unified modeling language 2.0 and 2.5. And for various of the templates, you don't have to start with a blank canvas anymore. You can just pick out one of the starter diagrams and then simply change out the text, try some of the tips that are presented on the screen as you get started, and quickly start diagramming. To try this out yourself, go to File, New, and then some of the different types that have starter diagrams, the audit, the basic flow chart, basic network diagram, the cross-functional flow chart, org chart wizard, Gantt chart, the timeline, and the workflow diagrams. Styles, themes, and tools that cut your drawing time. So you can format your shapes with the familiar Office Art shape effects. You can attach styles, and you see this format shape section over on the right side that's familiar to you from other tools that you're working in, whether it's Project itself and formatting the onboard reports that it came on in Project 2013 and continue into 2016 using themes, and so you're able to carry over your formatting from application to application to application. Easier collaboration so that you can co-author diagrams as a team when you've got your diagram in OneDrive for Business or SharePoint. You've also got a new commenting pane that you see at the lower right of the white diagram there to add, read, reply, and keep track of your various reviewers' comments. And a really powerful data visualizer, as well as a brand new database reverse engineering capability that brings back a capability that existed up through Visio 2007. I mentioned earlier the easier commenting capability, and this is one that apparently there was a very broad comment of bring back the database reverse engineering capability. So you can link Visio up to some of your databases and provide your data schemas directly into Visio. Okay. That is it for the new features that I wanted to highlight. I really wanted to take kind of a minimum of our time to let you know that there are a ton of new features in Visio all the time, give you a brief, very brief introduction to what they are as a foundation for coming in and looking at timelines. So on with our planned topic. So you know that you've got the capabilities of creating timelines in Excel. It's pretty rudimentary, but you can make it quick, you can make it easy, make it look just like you want to. However, the downside of it is that it is pretty rudimentary. Connecting it to an actual project requires some very complex formulas, and there's very little capability for data validation. But for the same reason that a lot of project managers will use Excel for project management, it's easily accessible. It's a tool that a lot of their clients, internal or external, have access to or are comfortable using. You can certainly do the same thing in Excel, but we're talking about, for the same reason a lot of organizations or a lot of project managers move up from Excel for their project management to using Project, they want to move up to either Project or Visio for their timelines. They want increased capabilities. They want increased speed and power. So we've still got options for creating timelines in Project Pro or Project Standard. When we look at the timeline capability that we have in the top of the screen here, we see in our image from Project Professional, we see the timeline capability, and that's a really powerful one in that each of those colored bars is connected logically to the lines in the Gantt chart project schedule information below. So as the project schedule is edited and modified, the bars up above will change. So it's very easy for you to take a copy of the timeline out of Project and paste it into an email or a Word document, and thereby communicate with a minimum of effort what the current status of your project is in a graphic form that helps to communicate. But we're going to go onward and we're going to say we actually want more capability even than this. And let's take a look at Visio with Project. So I'm going to bring across project. So we're going to prove that we've actually got a project schedule here. And I've got one that's got, let's see, about 40 line items in it. And they are, here we go. There we are. All under a series of phases representing our summary tasks. And so what we want to do at this point is we want to show the project in a more capable graphic form than the timeline that we have at the top of our project professional window or the Gantt chart that we have over here to the right side. So I'm going to close this file so that I'm able to open it in Visio, because otherwise Visio will give me a message that says it's got a problem. And I'm going to open up my Visio screen right here, bring it across to you. And we're going to start off in File, New. And as I've told you in the past before, lots and lots of templates available to you, and we can find a lot by searching online. And so if we search online for schedule, we're going to find a lot of online templates and others. And the timeline template that comes on board is available to us. We've also got some partner content that is available from other, from Microsoft partners that may provide you with additional options that you want to look at. We're going to take our timeline, and one of the things that I do want to show you about this is at the lower right corner of that particular tile, I've got the little push pin in icon indicating I've pinned this so that when I am back here in my new window, even without searching, I've pinned the templates that I use most frequently, and so they'll appear at the top of the screen here, available for me to find them very easily. So I'm just going to select timeline, and I'm going to accept the default of this timeline on a blank page up here, and I'm going to select the US units, since I'm not sure there's a lot of difference between a metric date and a US date. And now I've got our blank screen here, and I'm going to expand my shapes windows over here, and you see that I have available three types of timelines. I've got here a block timeline and a cylindrical timeline and a line form of timeline. And then I've got a variety of additional shapes that I can put onto my timelines. So I'm going to start off by building a block timeline here, and I just drag it onto the screen, and I get my configure timeline box here with start and finish dates and times should I want to go to that level of information. And the time scale is defaulting to months, which works out fine for me, and starting the fiscal year in January if that has an impact on you. And then I can play around with my time formats also and select the dates if, for example, I want to have more information like a day, or I want the form of the date to appear in a different way, all of that depending on who you're trying to communicate to. And the defaults are based on your Windows defaults. So this has come in, this has created a timeline that's going to start on May 3rd, and it's going to show me as markers the beginnings of each month as time goes by, going until the end date that it's selected of November 1st of this year. I can change this timeline information if I just select the timeline tab up on the ribbon and select configure, and maybe I don't need that to go all the way to November, maybe I just want it to go to September 1st. And so it will automatically shuffle things around for you in order to fill the allotted space, but then provide current information there so that we're up to date and we're spending a minimum of time actually managing the data, and instead we're able to spend the majority of our time making it look presentable and putting the right text on here. So if I want to add on to this elements, I can add on, for example, a block interval. So I bring in a task that's on here, and I'm going to drop it approximately where wants to go. And so this is guessed at the information that I want about that, start date of 5/21. And I'm going to say, I'd actually like it to start on the 15th. I was being approximate, and it's going to go through the end of the second full week in June. I don't care about the times here. That's not material to me. And this is going to be the description of my interval here. It's going to be planning phase. And I'm going to leave the date formats as they are. And I can change and format this as I would anything else in the environment. I'm going to change that to a paler color and with light or with darker text on top of it. If I don't like the attractiveness of that color, I've got my standard template. I've got my standard palettes if I want to use company standard colors. And I can add in milestones. So perhaps I want to put my standard diamond milestone in here, and it's guessing that I want to put that at the end of that planning phase. I'm actually going to put it on the 16th there, and we'll say planning complete. And so that's my milestone. And I can change my text here and make it black, and we'll make it bigger also. And so we can make all of the edits that we want to make this diagram work better for us. But remember, our premise coming into this webinar is that we want to work with project information. So with the foundation that we can edit and change a timeline in any way we want to make it formatted appropriately, let's create a new one using information from project. So let's go back up to our timeline, and just as we saw in one of our screenshots about the capability of importing Excel data, here we have the capability of importing project data. So click on our import data. We're going to browse to the folder where we have our project schedule, and you'll see that I'm opening up an actual MPP file. Click on next, and I've got options for which level of information out of that file I want to pull, and I am going to take just the top level tasks. I'm going to select the defaults here for my timeline to do a block timeline as opposed to cylindrical or line. I like my milestones to be diamonds, and when I have my intervals, I'm going to use the curly bracket for those. And we'll select next and then finish, and this is going to render the project schedule from Microsoft Project into the format that we selected here. And I'm going to quickly select all of those intervals, and I'm going to format my text as black so that I can read it a lot more easily. And now I'm going to start cleaning up my diagram a little bit. I can click on it and I can move these text boxes up out of the way in order to avoid my collisions if I want to. And you see that I've got my intervals shown as curly bracket intervals. If I want to change how a particular interval appears, all I have to do is right click on it, and I've got options as to what type of an interval type do I want to show. Do I want to change it from a curly bracket to a square bracket, cylindrical block, or a block? And I am going to make this one a block just so that we see that, and you'll see it by default it changes color. I'm just going to select for a different color, and if I like to, I can actually pull my text back up in here. So I've made it a little bit easier to read against a light background, and I can play with these as I want to. I could also expand elements of my timeline. So let me bring this expanded timeline shape over here, and I'm going to tell it what start and finish dates are. And when I do so, it's going to identify what it thinks it needs to map to. And so this is now tied to the controlling master timeline. And so I can make edits to this just as I did the other and make my information even more appropriately visible. And so I've got phase 4, I've got phase 3, and when I make changes to my master timeline there, the changes are reflected in my lower level visual also. And again, just as I do in the rest of project or the rest of Office, I can use Control Z to undo changes that I've made, and I can create additional expanded timelines. So if I want this one to be, say, 6/14 to 6/21, it's going to figure out where it needs to relate, and it is showing me the increased level of detail that I need in order to better identify what's appearing in that other visual. So I can make some very, very powerful capabilities, and all of this information comes directly across from Project. Now I hear you asking, is that connected up live to Project? No, it does not have a dynamic connection to Project. So you do want to make sure that the project schedule that you're editing has been updated as appropriate before you do the import of data. So you're importing data, you're not connecting data from Project. There certainly are capabilities to connect your data shapes in Visio to underlying databases, so you could do a very complex diagram in which you are linking individual shapes that form a timeline to tasks in Project that are dynamic, so that as your database in Project Online or Project Server is modified, a live connection to the data in Visio will maintain that information. And the information that you can create with regards to any one of the shapes on this page are very, very granular, and so that you can control where you want a particular shape to be in the XY axis on this page, what you want how you want to represent the duration, as well as the linked information related to that. So this is a great capability for creating timelines very rapidly from Project. And I do want to show you another example of one that I created that shows you a very complex timeline here and uses a lot of our capabilities of customization. So in this case, I've got my controlling timeline up here at the top, and you see that I created this a few months ago, and so I was showing the today indicator there for when that was last refreshed. And then I have all of these different elements in here that I put into my diagram, and because it's controlled by the date of each one, the information with regards to each one is updated at any one time that we shuffle things across the diagram. The horizontal position is controlled by the shape data, as you saw when I put intervals into my other diagram, and then I just dragged them down or up in order to put them into the appropriate phase to create an easy communications tool for working with my stakeholder group. And this is one of those examples where a really strong picture is going to help the message be more easily communicated. With that, let's see if we've got any questions from our attendees. Pam?
Hi, Ken. You know, I've answered a couple questions, but as of right now, I think we're pretty good.
That sounds great. Thanks so much. I guess we're ready to wrap up.
Oh, you know what? Let me try to make this screen bigger here. I see one question. What version of Visio is Ken discussing?
Okay, great question. So the new features that I started off with were features that were added since 2013. So some of them were added in 2013, some were added in 2016. I'm demonstrating in 2016 right now. So if you're using either the perpetual installation of 2016 or the Office Office 365 version of Visio, then you should have access to any and all of the features that I've discussed today.
Okay, that answers another question that we had on there too. So thank you, Ken. And thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. We welcome your questions, suggestions, and we want your feedback. For more information, please contact Ken Lowen or Pam Greensky. And once you exit today's webinar, you'll receive a survey on the presentation, and we would appreciate it if you would complete and submit the survey in order to get your PDUs. You will also receive a follow-up email within 24 to 48 hours with a link to view a recording of today's webinar. So on behalf of Advisicon, Ken and myself, we thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you participate in future webinars. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Thank you.